Okay, so today we're diving into SUI.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot of buzz.
I've heard of it?
Yeah, it's supposed to be this like super fast blockchain, and we're gonna see if it can really, shake things up.
Against like Ethereum and
Especially Ethereum. Yeah.
Solana.
Solana, those are kind of like the big
Wow.
names in the space.
The giants.
Exactly. And we're using some insights from the Bile Podcast to kind of like guide our deep dive today.
Cool.
Yeah. So to start off, like, what even is SUI?
So it's developed by this company called Miston Labs,
Okay.
and it's a blockchain, and it's like you said, supposed to be faster, cheaper than platforms like Ethereum.
Right.
And it uses this new programming language called Move.
Ooh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, Move is really interesting.
Yeah. What's so special about the programming language?
Well, it's kind of like the foundation,
Yeah.
for any blockchain platform. Like, how
Yeah.
can you build on it? And Move's supposed to be like really secure and really simple for developers to use.
It's like easy to kick up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even if you're like a new developer.
Yeah, it's supposed to be very user-friendly.
That makes sense.
And that's like a big appeal for a lot of people in this space because, blockchain development can be pretty complex.
Intimidating.
Yeah, exactly. So Move is trying to like simplify things and make it easier for people to build secure applications.
And especially secure ones.
Yeah, security is huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For anything that involves like money or valuable data.
Absolutely.
And the fact that SUI is built on Move, that's a big part of why it's getting so much attention.
And especially in those like gaming and NFT spaces.
Right, exactly, because like those are the areas where like speed and security are absolutely crucial.
Right. And I know the Bile podcast, they were talking about like super high transaction speeds, like something crazy, like 100,000 transactions per second.
Yeah, I remember that.
Is that even realistic? Like,
Well, it's theoretical.
go. Okay.
It's like you always have to remember that there's a difference between what's theoretically possible and like what actually happens in the real world. Right. But the technology behind SUI, like it does suggest that it could be significantly faster
Yeah.
than what we're using now. Yeah.
Than like the current system.
So like most blockchains right now, they process transactions one after another.
Oh, okay.
It's like a single line at a bank.
Like a queue.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Gotta wait your turn. But SUI, it uses like a parallel execution model.
Yeah.
So it's more like having multiple tellers working at the same time.
Oh, so it's like a multi-core processor.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so instead of waiting for each transaction to finish,
Right.
you can process a bunch at the same time.
Exactly. And that's how it's able to achieve much higher throughput.
Oh, that's interesting. And that's where like this horizontal scaling comes in, right?
Exactly.
Because the Bile podcast contrasted that with Ethereum, which gets really bogged down
Right.
when there's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, Ethereum is like notorious for that.
Yeah.
Like when things get busy, the fees go up, transactions slow down, it's a
Yeah.
mess. But with SUI, with this horizontal scaling, you can just add more processing power as the demand increases.
Oh, so you can just add more tellers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so theoretically, SUI won't experience those same bottlenecks.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's like a game changer for things like gaming, where you need lots of fast transactions happening constantly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Imagine like a huge online game with thousands of players.
Right. Exactly.
All doing stuff at the same time.
And it's all happening smoothly without any lag.
That's the dream.
Yeah. That's the vision.
Yeah, so it's not just about speed for the sake of speed. It's about enabling like all these new possibilities.
Yeah, new experiences, new applications.
Yeah, and that brings us back to like the gaming and NFT thing because like Ethereum and Solana,
They're already
in that
So they're already there.
space pretty heavily.
Yeah, so like
So what makes SUI think that they can compete? Like,
it's a good question.
why would people switch?
Yeah, like why would developers and users like bother to switch over to a new platform?
Right.
Well, I think SUI is kind of aiming for that sweet spot.
Oh, yeah?
Like Ethereum has that first mover advantage. It's got the biggest community.
Right, the network effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's facing limitations with scalability and cost.
Mm-hmm.
And Solana's super fast, but it's had some issues with network stability.
Oh, right.
So SUI is trying to combine like the best of both worlds,
Okay.
security, a developer-friendly environment with speed and affordability.
So it's like taking what works
Yeah.
and then adding their own little...
Yeah, their own spin on things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's got people excited.
Right. Yeah. It sounds promising, but the Bile podcast also brought up some challenges that SUI faces.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think we should talk about those next.
Yeah. Definitely competition is fierce in the blockchain world.
Oh, yeah.
Not enough to just have good tech.
Right. You need adoption. You need...
Yeah. You need people to actually use it.
Yeah, resilience and all that.
Yeah. And you got to navigate the whole regulatory landscape, which is a whole other beast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll definitely have to unpack all that.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, the Bile Podcast, they didn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
They were like, SUI's got a tough road ahead.
Right.
Ethereum's not going to just, like, disappear overnight.
Right. It's got that massive, like, first mover advantage.
Network effect. All that.
Yeah. And Solana's already, like, dug in pretty deep.
Yeah. Especially in, like, DeFi and NFTs.
Yeah. So
for SUI to really succeed, it needs to prove that it can deliver on all those promises.
Right. It's not just about the hype.
Yeah. Exactly. It's got to actually work in the real world.
Right. Attract users and all that.
Yeah. Get people building on it, using it, like real world applications.
Yeah. And be able to like adapt and evolve as things change.
Right. Because the tech world moves so fast.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
So you got to be able to keep up.
And then there's the whole like regulatory thing.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Which is like a wild card for any blockchain project.
Right. Because governments are still trying to figure out like what to do with all this.
Yeah. What are the rules?
Yeah, exactly. And that uncertainty makes it tough for any new platform to really take off.
Yeah, because who knows what's going to happen.
Right, exactly.
You know, one thing I was thinking about when I was listening to the Bile podcast was like, if SUI is so focused on gaming and NFTs, does that kind of limit its potential in other areas?
That's a good question.
Like, could it get stuck in that niche?
Right.
And miss out on, like, broader application?
Yeah. I mean, it's a balancing act.
Right.
Like, focusing on a specific niche can be good for early growth.
Right. Find your target audience.
Exactly. But eventually you got to show that you can do more.
Right. Expand your horizons.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be a one-trick pony.
So for you, like, what would it take for SUI to convince you that it has that broader potential?
Well, I'd want to see evidence of real-world adoption beyond just, like, games and NFTs.
Okay, specific examples.
Yeah. Like, are businesses using SUI for supply chain management?
Oh, interesting.
Or are developers building, like, decentralized finance applications on the platform?
Right, like real-world problems.
Yeah, exactly. Because that would show me that SUI is more than just like a gaming platform.
Right, it can be applied to all sorts of things.
Exactly, it's versatile.
Yeah, so let's say I'm a developer listening to this deep dive and I'm like intrigued by SUI. What would make me choose to build on SUI over like Ethereum or Solana?
Well, if you were building like a game or an NFT application, then SUI's speed and low transaction fees would be a huge draw.
Right.
And like we talked about, that Move programming language is really appealing from a security and ease of use perspective.
Yeah, seems like a big plus.
Yeah. But if you were developing something outside of those areas, like a DeFi platform or a supply chain management system, then I think you'd need to see more evidence.
Right, more proof.
Yeah, that SUI can handle those use cases.
So it comes back to that versatility thing, showing that you can play in the bigger sandbox.
Right, and it's not just about the technology itself.
Oh, right. What else is there?
It's also about the community. Yeah, like, is there a vibrant developer community?
People supporting each other.
Yeah, exactly. Helping each other out. Are there good resources and tools available?
So you're not just like out there on your own.
Right, exactly. You want to feel like you're part of something.
Part of a movement.
Yeah, a thriving ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember the Bile podcast host was like pretty optimistic.
Yeah, he was bullish on SUI.
Yeah, he was like, SUI could become a top 5 blockchain.
Yeah, top 5. That's ambitious.
Yeah. Do you think that's realistic or is that just like hype?
I mean, it's definitely possible.
Okay.
The blockchain space is super competitive.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of big players out there.
Right.
But I wouldn't count SUI out.
Okay.
If they execute well, build a strong community, and navigate the regulatory stuff effectively, they could definitely become a major player.
So it's all about execution.
Yeah, it all comes down to that.
It sounds like SUI is at a really interesting point.
Yeah, it's kind of a make or break moment.
Yeah. Lots of potential, but also lots of challenges.
Right. High risk, high reward.
So for our listeners, what should they be watching for in the coming months and years?
Well, I think there are 3 main things to keep an eye on.
Okay, lay it on us.
Developer activity partnerships and real-world use cases.
Okay, let's break those down.
All right, so starting with developer activity.
Yeah, what does that look like?
Well, you want to see that developers are actually building on SUI.
Right, not just talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about the quantity of developers. It's about the quality.
Oh, interesting.
Like, are they creating innovative projects that push the boundaries of what's possible?
Right. Are they contributing to the open source code base?
Exactly. because that shows that the community is healthy and engaged.
So it's about real, tangible evidence.
Yeah.
Not just hype.
Right.
Okay, so that's developer activity. What about partnerships?
So partnerships are huge because they can give SUI instant credibility.
Oh, right, because they're like teaming up with established players.
Yeah, exactly. And it exposes them to a wider audience.
Okay, so like imagine SUI partners with a big gaming studio.
Right.
And they release a game on the SUI platform.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Yeah, suddenly all these gamers are using SUI.
Exactly. And that could lead to massive adoption.
It's like a seal of approval.
Yeah, exactly.
From a trusted source.
Right.
Okay, and lastly, you mentioned real-world use cases.
Yeah. So this is all about showing that SUI can actually solve real-world problems.
Right, not just theoretical stuff.
Exactly. Like our businesses using SUI to streamline their supply chains.
Okay.
Our artists using it to create and sell NFTs to a global audience.
Interesting.
Our gamers flocking to SUI-based games that offer unique experiences.
So it's about seeing the technology in action.
Yeah, exactly. And seeing the value that it creates for users in the real world.
Right, tangible benefits.
Exactly.
This has been really eye-opening.
Yeah, it's a fascinating space.
I'm starting to see why the Bile Podcast was so excited about SUI.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of potential.
So to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that SUI represents a new generation of blockchain platforms that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right. They're faster, cheaper, more user-friendly.
Exactly. And whether or not SUI can ultimately succeed in challenging Ethereum and Solana.
Right. That's the big question.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. But it's a platform with a lot of potential.
It's definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Yes, especially if you're interested in the future of gaming, NFTs, and the whole blockchain space.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into SUI.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I'm really curious to see what the future holds for this groundbreaking platform.
Yeah, me too.
Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious. You know, it's funny, as we've been talking about SUI and all this potential, I keep thinking, like, what if it works?
Yeah.
What if this really becomes like
the Bile Podcast was saying.
Yeah, like this mainstream thing for gaming and digital ownership and all.
That's when it gets really interesting.
Yeah, like what would that world even look like?
Well, imagine a world where digital assets are like as easy to trade as physical ones.
Okay.
Like you could truly own your in-game items.
Oh, wow.
You could move them between different games. You could sell them on a global marketplace.
Like your digital stuff would have real value.
Yeah, exactly. Like it wouldn't just be stuck in one game.
Right. It's like a digital passport for all your virtual stuff.
Exactly. And it wouldn't just be for gaming either.
Oh, right. What else?
Think about digital art music collectibles. Anything that can be an NFT.
Oh, wow.
SUI could be the platform for all of that.
So it's like a whole new digital economy.
Yeah, a place where creators and collectors can connect, where ownership is secure and transparent.
Yeah, and where transactions are super easy.
Exactly. Frictionless.
You know, a lot of people are talking about how blockchain could, like, disrupt all these traditional industries.
Yeah, for sure.
Could SUI be a part of that?
I think it could definitely play a role. Like, if it gets widely adopted, it could change the way we think about ownership value, even work itself.
Whoa.
Like imagine making a living by playing games or creating digital art on SUI.
That's wild.
That's the kind of future that blockchain could enable.
Okay, so we've been pretty optimistic about SUI this whole time.
Yeah, we've been bullish.
Are there any downsides or risks that we should be thinking about?
Oh, for sure. I mean, every technology has risks.
Right.
One big one is security.
Okay.
Any platform that's dealing with valuable assets is going to be a target for hackers.
That makes sense.
So SUI is going to have to prove that it can keep people's stuff safe.
Yeah, their money, their data, all that.
Exactly. And then there's the whole regulatory thing that we talked about earlier.
Right, the wild card.
Yeah, governments could crack down on crypto at any time.
Yeah, that would definitely put a damper on things.
So SUI is going to have to navigate that carefully.
So even with all its potential, it sounds like SUI's future is still uncertain.
Yeah, for sure. It's a gamble.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly.
Like a game itself.
What kind of? Yeah. It's an exciting time to be following this space, though.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be watching for?
Well, keep an eye on how SUI's technology evolves.
Okay.
How it deals with regulations. How it attracts developers and users.
So pay attention. See how it all plays out.
Exactly. This is just the beginning of the story.
Yeah, it could have a huge impact on the future.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe even beyond the internet.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into SUI.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what happens next with this platform.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.